Welcome to Inner Peace with Dr. Reese, a program that can help you become liberated in the modern world. Now, here's your host, Dr. Kevin W. Reese.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Welcome to episode number 50. Today, I want to give you a discourse on the most important song of all time, Row Your Boat. It's not just a song. It's a mantra, a life mantra. In fact, no matter what happens to you in your life, today, tomorrow, or next week, whenever, this is something that you can bring up in your mind to help you get through whatever you're going through. First, let's break down the song. Row your boat. First of all, row is an action, right? It's the doer. And boat is your body. It's your vessel. Go back to the episode of inner life versus outer life. That's one of the main themes of this entire podcast. Your boat is your outer life. Your outer life. You have this body. You were given this gift of this body, the formed. And you can do whatever you want with it pretty much. You can run, you can walk, you can sleep, you can jump, you can hug someone, you could kill someone. It's your choice. We all have a boat. And then the action is row. Row your boat. Break that down. Your is not your outer life. Row your boat. Two things can row your boat. Either your mind or your soul. One or the other. Now, obviously, we've all been programmed. By the time we're 13 years old, we're completely programmed. Especially in the Western world. We're programmed to use our mind, right? We think that our mind knows best. So most people are rowing their boat with their mind. But this podcast and the teachings of the sages and the gurus and the masters through the centuries is about switching from your mind to your soul. The soul being your true self, your original face, the formless, the inner life. So row is an action. The first sentence of this song is saying, you have a boat. That's how you move through life. And someone's got to row it. So what's it going to be? Your mind or your soul? It's your choice. If you want freedom, then you need to switch to your soul. Start moving on feeling. Start moving on instinct. Because your mind is trained for survival. Your mind lies to you. Your mind is consistently in the past or the future. It's either working off of memory or it's working off of fantasy. And of course, I broke all that down in the anxiety and depression episode, right? Present moment, soul. So everyone's got a boat. And I can't row your boat. And you can't row my boat. We're all responsible for rowing our own boat. You get it? Let's move on. Row your boat gently down the stream. Gently down the stream. Not harshly, not roughly, not intensely. Gently, gently down the stream. This is key. Gently. I've talked about on this podcast before that the key to everything is relaxation. The man or woman that learns how to relax is the most free person on this planet. And that's what's meant by gently. Move gently. If you were going to hold a baby, you wouldn't hold the baby roughly or unrelaxed. You have to be relaxed to hold a baby. You should be. You don't want to shake the baby. You want to hold it very delicately. Right? As you sway back and forth and you look into its eyes, innocent eyes. Gently. Life is about relaxation and not being tense. So that's what's meant by the word gently. Down the stream. Down, not up. Ooh, how significant is that? Your ego likes to go up the stream, not down the stream. Down the stream signifies going with the flow. The stream represents life. Life is a flux. It's always going to just keep flowing. With or without you, it's just going to keep flowing, right? But you know a stream, you know a river, it's moving one way. If you turn around and try to go against it, you're going to have a hard time. And it's anything but gently. The stream represents life, but stream is also a key word in the spiritual world. It's called the audible life stream. The stream was talked about by Gautama the Buddha 2,600 years ago. The first stage of enlightenment is entering the stream. The energy stream. It's hard for people to understand unless you've experienced it. Even for a glimpse. Even for a glimpse. We're surrounded by energy. Just like we're surrounded by oxygen. Like a fish or a shark or a whale is surrounded by oxygen and hydrogen, which they call H2O, water. We're surrounded by this life stream, this force, right? In episode 38, Santos Bonacci broke it down for us. The force and the source. And then we correlated that with Taoism, right? The force is the chi. The source is the Tao. It can all be scientifically broken down. The life stream flows. So you can look at the stream from a spiritual standpoint, and you can look at it from a practical standpoint. It is life. Things are going to change, and you got to go with the flow. But our ego wants to control, right? And go back to the ego episode. I think it was episode number 11. The ego wants to control. It wants to feel important. So it fights. It fights. We can take this modern moment right now as an example. At the time of this recording, it is April 22nd, 2020. And we're in the middle of a global pandemic. The first one in 100 years. People are having trouble. They're told to stay home. Social distancing. Some people lost their jobs, or they have to work from home. Their kids have to go to school from home. People are being furloughed. They're losing money. The grocery store shopping is completely different. Life completely changed in a matter of days. And nobody knows when it's going to change back. That's the stream. It just changes all the time. Sometimes there's big changes, and most of the time it's just small, subtle changes. You have to go with the flow. If you have this row your boat mantra mentality, then it doesn't translate into anxiety, depression, stress. No, it's relaxing. Because you know that the stream, the river, it's gonna flow, it's gonna take turns, it's gonna go this way, that way, it's gonna be a wild little ride. Just go with the flow. This is the way it's supposed to be. If you try to go up the river and change course, it's not gonna be pretty. You're gonna stress yourself out. You're gonna cause tension, stimulation in yourself. And that doesn't take care of your boat very well. You can't stop the water. But some people, they want to be antagonists. They love to fight. Their ego loves to fight. You see it. You can look on your Instagram or Facebook right now and go through your news feed and you'll see it. People are antagonists. An antagonist basically means an adversary. They go against the grain. Whether it's politics or religion, whatever it is, right? The Christian says their way is better, the Muslims say their way is better, and then there's a fight. The Democrats, the Republicans, they fight. It's all one big competition. And so when incidents happen, social incidents, could be a school shooting, it could be the topic of abortion, it could be this global pandemic. There's always going to be people on both sides of the fence, and they're going to be fighting, and that's duality. And we want to rise above the duality. So you got people that just aren't going with the flow. Their ego is saying, speak out. Tell other people they're basically stupid. Right? That's what people do when they say, oh, most of the public is sheep and nobody's paying attention. Well, you're going to offend people. Even if you feel that way, do you really have to hop on your social media and put it out there? Do you? I see this a lot in my natural health community. Everyone wants to hop on their social media and they want to try to teach, but they don't teach properly. Instead, they offend. They like to offend. And I was, guilty of that. I used to do the same thing. I wrote a book called Protein Kills. That's pretty, it's definitely antagonism. It was a long time ago, and I've evolved since. But this song is a reminder to go with the flow. Life is a flux, and it's not as serious as you think it is. Right? We've talked about this before, right? On the podcast. Life is a joke, and then you laugh. Once you understand how life works, how this cyclical system works, then you can look at it for what it is. A game, a play, a movie, a drama, a leela, samsara. Just the other day, I was taking a shower, and the handle, that dictates whether it's hot or cold or in the middle, it broke. And so I was stuck on scalding hot. And, the first 10 seconds was like, no. But all I could do was laugh. It's funny. It's funny. Is it an inconvenience? Of course. I got to order the part on Amazon. I got to replace it. I'm not that mechanical of a guy, so I got to go on YouTube and figure out how to fix it. But it's funny because life is just funny like that. It's just a joke. Just go with the flow, man. It's not as serious as you think it is. And when you come to that realization, you'll just go with the flow. It doesn't mean you can't fight for some things. It doesn't mean you can't stand up for what you truly believe in, if it's a social issue or something like that. But you have to be careful not to get caught up so much that you're going upstream. Ask yourself, when you're in some sort of activity that feels a little stressful and tense, ask yourself, am I going upstream or downstream? A lot of people choose to have a victim mentality. This happened to me. This happened to my family. Or I don't want this to happen to me. I don't want this to happen to my family. I'm a victim. The victim mentality doesn't really exist in a world that is a dream. Speaking of that, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. What's the next part? Merrily, 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 merrily. Merrily. Now, this is the attitude part of the mantra of the song. To be merry, to be happy. Look, you only got 80 years, give or take, on this planet. And that's assuming that you don't have an accident or a terminal illness that falls upon you. Right? 80 years, that's all you get. That's a blip on the radar. That's nothing. That's nothing. I want you to understand. I want you to feel how much of nothingness you really are. Your ego makes you feel like you're something super duper special, and you're not. And I know that sounds negative. We've talked about this before, but it's true. Nobody's going to remember you in 300 years. Nobody. You think that your kids, and then your kids going to, tell your grandkids, and it's going to keep going. No, it's not. Because they're going to die, and it's going to be this thing. And everyone has an ego. Their egos are formed by 13 years old. That's the way the society is programming people. It's playing on our egos. So who's to say, your great-great-great-grandkids so many decades from now are even going to give a crap to spread your legacy? They're worried about themselves. They're trapped in their own ego. And who's to say society will even be functioning the same way? Who's to say there'll even be an internet? What about all the work I've done in my career? Most of it's on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff, right? So I remember my ego used to play on that. Oh, yeah, it's all recorded. It's all there, so people can watch it even after I'm dead. Who's to say there'll even be an internet? That work, canceled, deleted. Could be. Very much so. Very much so. And even if it's not, who's to say someone from 2073, right? The year 2073, who the heck is going to hop on YouTube and look up Dr. Reese? I don't know the answer to that, but what I can tell you is there's a good chance no one. And same with you. That's why we can't get hung up on legacy. We can't get hung up on the future. The future is only going to bring you anxiety and suffering and expectation, disappointment. Who remembers Alexander the Great? Yeah, you may remember the name, but you don't know the story. Come on. Go ask a 16-year-old kid, hey, tell me about Alexander the Great. You're not going to get much of an answer. And Alexander was one of the most famous people to ever walk Earth. Okay? People remember Michael Jackson because he's modern. How about Harry Houdini? He was super duper famous. Who can tell me about Houdini? They know the name. Look at one of my favorite people. Someone that I relate to very much. Nikola Tesla, the great inventor, the great scientist, the man who they named a car after. You go ask a 16-year-old kid about Tesla and they'll be like, oh, the car? No, the guy that gave you electricity and radio, and would have been even more if they didn't shut him down. In real talk, I'm telling you about celebrities. I'm using celebrities as examples. If Alexander the Great and Nikola Tesla aren't really remembered properly, how the heck is regular Joe Blow and Jane Doe going to be remembered correctly? Think about it. I mean, how many times have you drove over a bridge that's dedicated to someone from the past, right? Oh, this is the Elizabeth Smith Bridge. She was an activist from 1776, and she did this and that, and you pretty much don't care. You don't. You just drive over the bridge. And certainly, your kid don't care. A 16-year-old kid don't give a crap. How many times have you gone to a library or a park and a bench is dedicated to someone? Or there's a little statue of someone in your community that did some good things 100 years ago. You don't care. You just walk past it. You're caught up in your own ego. You're caught up in your own stress, your own life. So you see how this legacy thing works. It's an illusion. This is what I'm saying. We get erased. We get erased. And some people may remember you inside of the first 100 years you're dead, but the more it goes, the more you get erased. It's like you're building a sandcastle. And eventually the waves are going to come and they're going to break that sandcastle down. And eventually it's just going to be sand again. You can't stop the force of the water. It's coming. Right? Don't get depressed by this. Get liberated by this. Get liberated in knowing that you have these 80 years and you want to live them merrily, 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 merrily. Yes. You want to enjoy. You want to sing. You want to dance. You want to make love. You want to, enjoy art. You want to relax. You want to meditate. You want to become self-realized. You want to know who you really are. Use your curiosity to become disciplined and learn who you really are. You don't want to walk these 80 years grumpy, 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 grumpy. Or angry, 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 angry. No. You want merrily, merrily, merrily. Right? Don't you want merrily? Joyful? Celebratory? I did a whole episode on celebration. Celebration is part of the inner peace practice. It's part of the protocol, the system. Life is going to happen to you. Like I just discussed a few moments ago. You never know when a hurricane's coming, an earthquake is coming, a burglar trying to break into your house. You get diagnosed with cancer. Your dog gets hit by a car. Your house burns down. You lose your job. Someone close to you dies in a car accident. There's so many things that can happen in this life. You can't stop life. Life just happens, and you have to learn how to navigate the waters. Go down the stream, merrily, 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 down the stream with the flow. Things are happening just how they're supposed to happen. Everyone's playing their role. I'm playing the role of Dr. Reese, the weird podcast host, healer guy. It's just my role at this moment. And if you get stopped by a police officer for speeding, the police officer's playing a role, right? And your best friend who you're arguing with right now is playing a role. And your mom's playing a role. Everyone's playing a role. We're all inside like a movie. Because life is but a dream. What a beautiful ending to a song, a mantra. Life is but a dream. Samsara. The dream, the great dream. How real is this life? If you break everything down, it is not form. It's a scientific fact. The microphone that I'm talking into right now looks different underneath a microscope. Fact. This whole existence is layered. It's very layered. How can you really be you? If you put me underneath the microscope, I am no longer a 5'9" Caucasian American from East Hartford, Connecticut, who has a PhD, whose name is Kevin, brown eyes, etc., 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 etc. No. You put me underneath the microscope and I'm not that anymore. I'm a bunch of cells. And eventually we get down to energy. We get down to electricity, protons and electrons. So what are we really talking about here? Huh? That's the difference between the inner life and the outer life. The formless and the formed. Then we have these things supposedly inside us called a mind. And the mind is based off memories and imagination. And it's like a computer. And it collects data. And it's very easily manipulated. And that's what they do. The society engineers us, socially engineers us, programming, right? And this has become even more prevalent in the 80s, because that's when the boom, the very huge boom of cable television happened. And the television became our teachers. So now we live in a very, very programmed world, and we're stuck. We're stuck in our minds. And one of the things your mind does is it projects. It projects. It runs off of patterns. How social media work? It works with algorithms. You've heard that term? Your mind works with algorithms as well. Algorithms. Everything that you learned. Patterns. All these patterns just flowing. So yeah, it's a dream. Because your mind is conditioned and your mind is always drifting. It's either used to something, it's either engineered, and or you're in the future imagining things. Remember, back in the Clean Living episode, we talked about music and how music that has lyrics, which obviously is modern music, like the last 60, 70 years, modern music, lyrics attaches to your ego, attaches to your mind, and it conditions you to start imagining automatically. And it takes you out of the present moment. That's the trick. That's how they get you. That's how they keep you mechanical. That's how they keep you as a sheep. It's how they keep you from awakening into your true self. Right? You know it. You're doing some cardiovascular exercise and a certain song comes on. It's your jam. It's high powered, it's Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle, or it's, a DMX song that just gets you going, and you run a little faster. You go into an imagination dreamlike state. And you get through those miles a little better, don't you? Because you were daydreaming. It puts you into a daydream. It happens when you're driving. Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer comes on, and you're like, oh, living on a prayer. And you're like, and you're just like into this whole attitude of hope. You're not even concentrating on the road. You're driving mechanically because you've driven so many times that you don't even really need to pay attention too much. You're a robot. Stop sign. Stop. Go. Left turn. Signal. Everything is autonomous. The music takes you out of the present moment. Lyrics take you out of the present moment. This puts you into the dream-like state. Movies do similar things. They distract you for 2 hours. Take you into a fantasy world. Even when you're watching a movie or a show that is based on true events or supposed to be a true story, you don't know how much of that is true. Unless it's your story. You don't know. Some Hollywood guys, some writers got together and they made this roller coaster story to take you on an emotional ride. Right? So when you look at it from this perspective, not just the scientific layered perspective, but also the social engineering perspective, you can see that you're living inside of a dream. Because unless you're grounded in the present moment and you're operating from soul, from spirit, from intuition, then you're just coasting through life in this dreamlike state. This is where we get the ADD and ADHD people from, right? Everyone wants the scientists, they want to make money off the pharmaceuticals, so they come up with this whole, you're chemically imbalanced thing. No, You're caught up in a dreamlike state. So somebody that's hyperactive, it's easier for them to forget their keys, to stub their toe, to be unorganized, to live in chaos, because they're caught in their own dream. They're fantasizing, or they're in the past in their memories, and they're not grounded in the centered mind. They're not grounded in awareness. You ever have a dream and you wake up and you're like, wow, that felt real. That felt really real. Whew. Could have been a nightmare. Could have been a sexual fantasy. Could have been whatever. Some sort of vision. Wow, that felt real. That's how we're living when we're awake. Therefore, you're not really awake. You're in a sleeping slumber, like a zombie of some sort, just walking around, going through the motions of life, dreaming. And they socially engineer us. How many times do you hear the word dream? The American dream. Or LeBron James followed his dream, right? They turn the word dream into some sort of goal. And what's the result? A society that's stuck in a dream. It's not real. Do you think that's air you're breathing, Neo? Huh? Is the woman in the red dress real? These are Matrix references. Episode 40. Episode 40. Life is but a dream. That means don't take it so serious. Don't take it so serious, man. Let go, or you'll get dragged. I've said it before, it's like you're living in a school. You're living in a school and you're constantly given tests. Quizzes, if you will. Sometimes it's a big test, big exam. Sometimes it's just little quizzes. Like the roommate stuff it's little quizzes. You didn't wash your dishes. How am I going to wash my dishes if the sink is full? Right? So you have to learn how to navigate those waters. You got to learn how to communicate without, offending someone. You have to learn how to not get angry. And that's how we find peace, inner peace. When we achieve equanimity, when nothing can bother us. Just go with the flow. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It's beautiful, isn't it? So, as you go through life as a student inside this mystery school, think about this song. Think about this mantra. Every time something happens to you, whether it's something really small, like the dish is not being done, or whether it's something bigger, like being told by your government to stay home because there's a global pandemic, right? Go with the flow. With awareness, with open eyes, but go with the flow. You only think it's serious because you've been socially programmed to think that things are serious. You've been programmed for the drama, for the stress. One of my favorite quotes ever is by a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn. It's a great speaker. And he said something in a lecture one day that stuck with me. He said, "The same wind blows on us all. The same wind blows on us all." Isn't that true? Right? No matter what your mood is, no matter what your state of life is, if there's a storm coming, all your neighbors, everyone in your town is getting hit with the same wind as you, the same rain as you. You're not special. It's happening to all of us. But generally speaking, the same wind blows on us all. The same things are happening. If you're suffering from great grief because someone close to you died, guess what? There's a million other people in the world going through the same thing. And I can say for a fact that they're going through the same thing at the same exact time because there's so many people in the world. Things are happening at the same time. You stub your toe, somebody else is stubbing their toe. You stub your toe in New York City, somebody's stubbing their toe in China. It's like, it's a big place with 7 billion people plus. It's a lot of people. And the same wind is blowing on us all. We're all in this together. Every single day of your 80 some odd years, we're all in this together. And the purpose is your journey. Your 80-year journey is the purpose. It's not any goal, right? We talked about this on the ambition episode, right? You remember that? There's no real goal. It's the journey that matters. It's the trip down the stream on your boat. Merrily, merrily, merrily. And all sorts of things are going to happen in your journey down that stream. Good and bad. You're going to be totally in love with someone, or you're going to get a raise at your job. You're going to have all this amazing feeling of wow, I did it. You're on cloud 9, and then there's going to be the other stuff, possibly getting cancer, or, your dog getting hit by a car, and all this stuff that you would consider bad. It's all going to happen. It's going to be up and down. But if you understand it as a dream and you understand it as a journey, then it's the same thing, right? You're just in the school, you're just learning, and it's not as serious as you think. Even if you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, whatever, laugh it off. It's just the way that it is. And in that stream, there's also synchronicities. We talked about this in the Earth School episode. We talked about this, the synchronicities, the things that happen that are mind-blowing when you look at it and how they unfold. How I met the blue antelope. And then how I met Dr. Morse. And even this podcast, this wasn't planned. I got booked, right, to do a seminar at the Bridge Wellness Center in Farmington, Connecticut. That was, I think, the second week of May 2019. And people wanted more. They're like, oh, well, 2 hours isn't enough. We want to learn more. So I said, well, writing a book, I already had the idea of writing a book, but I'm like, well, a book's going to take a while, so I'll do a podcast. So I launched the podcast. The first episode is the recording of the seminar. I started unveiling the protocol, one episode at a time. I was going to do 12 episodes. Just to give it to the people. After 12, I said, oh, let me bring on some guests to shed light on different topics. And from episode 13 on, that's what happened. And then, if you want to get even more synchronotic, the person that booked me ended up leaving the Bridge Wellness Center. And the girl that took her place, obviously, it was a new relationship. And she, for whatever reason, liked me, believed in me, and she decided to get me more involved. here I am, all of a sudden, I'm forming relationships at this new wellness center. And next thing you know, a bunch of people, a bunch of practitioners that I met have become guests on this podcast. Karen Raymond, Denise, Ken Fresky. I didn't know who these people were until I met them at the bridge. And they've added tremendous value to these recordings. And then they said, yeah, record the podcast here, no problem. I recorded a bunch of episodes at the bridge. And that evolved into the healthy happy hour events that I had. And doing this and doing that. And it became like a second home for almost an entire year. Here we are a year later, and the podcast just evolved. And eventually I said, I'm going to stop it at episode 50, which is this episode. I'm going to stop it. Let it be a body of work, because I need to get to the book. Because the whole idea from the beginning was to write the Inner Peace book. But then people are contacting me like, don't end it. Please don't end it. And I'm like, okay. Well, maybe I should keep this going. And then I got the Michael Cremo interview. That recording's coming up. And he's a world-renowned researcher. He was on, Ancient Aliens and whatnot. And so it's like, this stuff just keeps happening. I'm just going with the flow. It's not really super duper planned. So yeah, I have decided to keep this podcast going. Although I don't think I'm going to release an episode every week like I did the first year. Maybe twice a month. Because I had to do a lot of work in my garden right now. That's my priority, is learning the garden life. Plus I got to write the book. So there's other things on my plate. Eat the sunlight. But I did put a meditation album out for you, which is available on drreese.com. Doctor spelled out. I think this meditation album is going to really help you. I think I can bring you to some new places. Are you ready for that? I'm working on getting it on the streaming services like Spotify and Apple and Tidal, Amazon. So I don't know if they're up yet or not. But check out that album. It's called Dr. Reese Meditations Part 1. I named it Part 1 because eventually there'll be a Part 2. I think this is something I can continue. And again, it wasn't planned. It just happened, man. It just happened. People are like, you relax me. And I'm like, okay, well, if the podcast relaxes you, let me take it to the next level and take you through a guided meditation, right? Yeah, man. Try that out. It also helps support the podcast as well. You just go with the flow. Pay attention. Life, existence is talking to you. Walk through your school. Do the best that you can. If you do it correctly and you follow the inner peace practice that I laid out in the first 12 episodes of this podcast, you can get to a place where you start remembering who your true self is. As they call it in Zen, the original face. This is the face that you had before your parents. The formless. Okay? So row your boat. Row your boat. Every time something happens to you, just say row your boat. as a reminder. Row your boat. Right? You get fired from your job. Just say, okay, take a deep breath. I got to row my boat. That's it. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It's the perfect mantra for this human experience that we're having. It's the perfect mantra. And I want to tell you, it's truly been my honor to speak to you in this capacity for the last year. 50 episodes in a year. I've enjoyed myself. And I hope, and I say hope loosely, because hope is in the future and hope is imaginary. I try to stay away from hope, but using it as a slang word, I hope you've gotten something out of this. And certainly anyone that dives in deep, listens to all 50 episodes, not just once, but twice, 3 times, reads the 5 books I gave him in episode number 40. And now there's the meditation album. Listen to them. Put your headphones on. Turn the lights off. Do the meditations. Go deep. Do them over and over and over again, right? Just develop some discipline and do these things. And you'll start to experience a transformation, right? So we did it, 50 episodes in a year. I only took 2 weeks off around Christmas time. And that was it. So, you know, it's really been a pleasure. And I hope year number 2 is as good as year number 1. I don't think it'll be 50 whole episodes, but I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can. Make sure you row your boat, and I'll talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Inner Peace with Dr. Reese. If this episode opened your heart, feel free to share on social media and tell your loved ones. Also, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, may peace be with you.